Hi, it's Matt from Milwaukee Record.
And I'm Kristin from Asco's, Wisconsin.
And this is... Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of Matt and Kristin talk about Milwaukee and Wisconsin stuff. And hello, Kristin, it's nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well. On a Monday morning, this is like a special edition. We usually do this midweek.
We do this, midweek, late in the week. We usually release these videos on a Friday, but we are doing it bright and early on a Monday morning, just so we can get in on the hot Summerfest discourse.
Recap.
As we all know, Milwaukee may not have a mask mandate, but there is a long-standing mandate that every media outlet in town must share their Summerfest takes as soon as the big gig wraps up. And the 2021 big gig just wrapped up this past Saturday night, I guess. And like I said, we are legally mandated to talk about it. So that's what we're doing for this entire episode. So where do we begin with Summerfest 2021?
Well, this is my first time going since 2003.
Wow.
So, because I left for 17 years.
Right.
And obviously it was a little different than how everyone remembers it being, as far as being spread over 3 weekends. But what are your hottest takes? I don't know if I have any hot takes that no one else has said yet, but
right.
I have some reviews on some of the concerts I saw. But I'll let you go first.
Well, I guess attendance is always the big thing that people talk about once the thing wraps up. Summerfest has not released attendance numbers yet. They'll probably do it this week, later this week, or next week. But I'm no mathematician, but I would say that attendance was probably down this year for a number of reasons.
Yeah.
Now, there are usually about 8,000 reasons people will toss around to explain low Summerfest attendance. This year, there were 8,000 more on top of the usual, what are some of the hits? It was too cold, it was too hot, it rained.
It was Labor Day. The first weekend was Labor Day weekend, so people go out of town.
So that was.
But obviously the big one is they required vaccination cards or a negative test. I love that people forget that you could also just get a negative test. But the thing is, you really could have faked that pretty easily. You could have a picture of your vaccination card, which is what I did, and it was a picture of my actual vaccination card. But they didn't know that. Like, it could have literally been a vaccination card, a picture of anyone's vaccination card. They didn't check it against your ID. They didn't look at it very hard or very long. So, it'll be interesting to see in retrospect of was it worth the backlash? Considering I'm not sure how, in practice, I don't know how serious it was executed.
I had the exact same experience as well. I have a picture on my phone. It's like my one favorited picture, so I can just bring it right up. I'm like, hey, it's my Vax card. And you're right. It was very kind of just looks good. I mean, I could have showed them a baseball card or something and would have probably got in. And that's, I guess, just kind of how it is, and kind of how it is in a lot of places. For as much, digital ink and grinding of teeth, the whole vaccination requirement thing has been, some places are better than others, but I've been to a lot of bars and a lot of other venues where there's a cursory glance, and that's it. And I don't know, some people get very upset about that. I saw some chatter on Twitter the opening weekend, people complaining about this, saying you could show anything, you could have a fake or whatever. I did see someone, I think it was my pal Evan Ritleski, he said, I think just having this policy in place at all kind of accomplishes what it is setting out to accomplish. The fact that it's there, and it's not just, I suppose you could look at it as security theater, or you could look at it as a deterrent, and you're kind of weeding out people that are just going to get pissed off about it anyway and won't show up anyway. So it's kind of doing its job, just being there, no matter how hard they're carding you necessarily.
Well, and I said this from the get-go. It's the burden of making service industry people be the gatekeepers of this. I mean, it was whether it was back in the winter when the mask mandate and seating mandate in all the Milwaukee bars and restaurants was a thing, and handing out $1,000, like multiple thousands of dollars of fines to places that were not enforcing their patrons to sit down.
Right.
And it's like they're already struggling so much that to get like in confrontations with their patrons, it's like, really, is this who we want to be enforcing this? That like this is the burden? And I kind of said that from the get-go with like, oh, you're gonna make these like security guard, these like Summerfest security guards who are making $14, $15 an hour be like getting confrontations with people like this looks fake. It's like so I mean, I still felt safe.
I did too.
But I also am vaccinated, so I feel safe most places I ever go.
Same here. So I wasn't too upset about, the lack of hard carding. Like I said, I think it kind of just did most of its job just being in there. And a lot of people, I think a very loud minority of people were grumbling about it and blamed, especially that first weekend, Labor Day weekend, which it was on Labor Day weekend, the first weekend.
Which was really not smart.
No, and that kind of snuck up on me. Suddenly a few days before, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to be out of town because I go camping every Labor Day. And that's just what we do, and that's what a lot of people do, or they're back in school or whatever. And to have the opening weekend on Labor Day weekend was not a great idea. And, I wasn't there. Obviously, I was camping, but I saw video from the grounds that night, and, I mean, it was kind of a ghost town.
So I ended up going... I watched the opening fireworks from a boat, which was very fun. That went Wednesday night. And then that first Thursday did not go, but we went the first Friday. I saw Guster, which was I feel like most of this was like a throwback to but we'll get to that. So that first
Summerfest,
Friday.
a throwback?
I know. I saw Guster, Leon Bridges, and Shaq, DJ Diesel. And it was very empty. That first Friday. Mm-hmm. But then we went back. So Dave Matthews, which was packed.
That was
Wednesday?
Yeah.
Which again, throwback. But he's aged very well.
I saw you said that. Yeah.
And I meant that in the Steve Carell, Bradley Whitford way. He looks better now, I think he did than he did as a younger man.
Good.
I was like, oh, you look really good, Dave Matthews.
Nice.
But also the show was great. And then that felt packed. Megan Thee Stallion felt packed. I went to that on Thursday night. And even the last Friday, I went and we were just kind of walking around, and then we ended up seeing Bleachers Friday night.
Nice.
And there felt like there was a lot of people there. But again, I don't have the best frame of reference because I haven't been there for a long time. But I think that everyone that I was with kept being especially that first weekend was like, oh my God, this makes me kind of sad how empty it feels.
It was kind of creepy that first weekend. By the time I finally did go the second weekend, I went to see Wilco on, I think it was Friday night. And I was legally required to do that. I am a dad. I am a white dad. We all have to go to the Wilco show and, mingle. And
it's our annual meeting.
It is, yeah. That's where we all get together and talk about
dad stuff.
And it was great. I thought the crowd that night just overall was nowhere near peak Summerfest as it had been in years past. But I was glad it wasn't peak Summerfest. It wasn't dead. It felt busy and I wouldn't say packed, but it was a perfect crowd for that night, both at the Wilco show and just kind of the festival grounds in general. And I kept seeing that repeated over and over from folks I know on Twitter and elsewhere saying, wow, this felt good. This felt like a good crowd. It's obviously down a little bit, but it was comfortable. It was certainly, in years past, I think, and I do have the Summerfest, kind of overall attendance numbers here. Just for reference, back in 2001, they had their biggest year ever. They topped 1 million people.
Wow.
Over the 11 or 12-day festival. And it's been kind of downhill, steadily, kind of bumpy down there from there. In 2019, and this is something that I've seen some people talk about, but I think it bears repeating. In 2019, pre-pandemic, before any of us knew what COVID-19 was, Summerfest in 2019 had its lowest attendance in 20 years or so, or more than 20 years, I think since 1986. In 2019, 718,144 people showed up, and that was its lowest attendance in decades and decades, since the 80s. And I think that needs to be kind of kept in mind when inevitably the Summerfest attendance numbers for this year come out, and they're going to be pretty low, and they'll probably be much lower than 718,000. But the festival has kind of been trending downward just in general, before the pandemic.
Like, it was interesting. I was filming with a friend, and she's like my age, so we're in our 30s. And then the guy who was our videographer, I think he just graduated from college. So he's like 23, 24. Mm-hmm. And this is one anecdote, but he was like, if I'm going to go pay to see a concert, I want to go pay to see the band that I'm trying to see. Yeah. And I don't want to, like, the overpriced drinks and stuff. So it's like, I also just wonder how much it's shifted of like young people, because there's so many other ways to find new music.
Right.
That like what was so special originally was like, oh, you could just hang out all day and you see so many different bands and bands you've never heard of and locals, like small bands, local bands, whatever. Mm-hmm. And like that appeal to younger people is maybe not there anymore, and like not having the money to spend like $10 a beer and hang out all day.
Right.
And they're like, I'm not gonna like sneak in like warm vodka and like what I mean, like, and so it's just that appeal to younger people. I don't know. Maybe it's just not as strong as it used to be.
I don't think Summerfest has ever been a young music fan's delight. It's never catered. There's always a few like bands and artists tossed in there that will appeal to either teenagers or folks in their early 20s. And this year, there were a couple in there. I don't know. I would, if you think of like artists that are relevant right now, who would, Megan Thee Stallion would probably be the biggest one this year.
Chance the Rapper.
It's
basically everyone who came to the main stage.
At the amphitheater, yeah. Miley Cyrus probably.
I mean, Dave Chappelle was packed. Like, I didn't go that weekend, but I remember, and I tweeted about this, of like, I just went to a friend's house, not even, because it had been so slow the first weekend. Mm-hmm. I didn't even think about it, but she lives down in like the 3rd ward. I was like, I'm just going to come to her house. We're just like, brought my dog. Like, we're just going to chill, the two of us. Mm-hmm. And I started to drive to her house and realized like, oh, there's not a parking spot in sight. Like, I drove around for so long trying to park anywhere near her house, which is like, you can hear Summerfest from her place. Mm-hmm. So I ended up parking at like my co-working spot and walking down, which was fine. It's not that far. But like, I have to think that it was because Dave Chappelle Saturday night like just drew such a huge crowd.
Also at the amphitheater that drew huge crowds, and it seemed like a concert that the entire city of Milwaukee somehow heard because of the weather. The Jonas Brothers. Did you hear them as well? It seemed to be this weird citywide thing.
Which stage were they on?
The amphitheater, the main stage, and it was, I don't know. We'll have to like get like Mark Baden or someone in on here, some weather person to explain it, but. There was some sort of like cloud cover or something that it just made the sound reverberate through the entire city. Like everyone in Bayview that I know that lives in Bayview were like, oh my God, can you hear the Jonas Brothers like right now? Like clear as day. And I kind of heard them from my place too on the east side, and it was kind of strange.
That's really strange. I did not hear that. I heard Kesha on that Saturday night, but again, we were like right next to the stage.
21 Pilots, also a very, I think, youthful band that draws the kids, as they say. So, I mean, there's always those groups in there. But I think just in general, ever since I kind of became aware of Summerfest and started going, like in the 90s, it's a lot of older acts. Yeah. And it's, at the time, it was a lot of like, still kind of boomer era rock groups, classic rock groups, and now there's this slowly like, I mean, I have graduated into the 4 p.m. like matinee crowd. Like all the stuff that I want to see is like playing. They are playing at 4 o'clock. Anyone who played in the 90s and in years past was like, oh wow, Guided by Voices, they're playing at 4 o'clock. Andrew WK 4 o'clock. So I am in that old age group now. And it is, it's moving along, and I just think, I don't know, this would be a bigger subject probably, but just the nature of the music industry in general has become so fragmented, and a lot of these kind of huge draw classic rock groups like, Paul McCartney or the Rolling Stones or Fleetwood Mac, they're either not playing anymore, or they've retired, or they've just passed on. And, or Bob Dylan is, in his 80s. I mean, a lot of these classic rock artists are, in their 80s. And so those huge draws are just kind of disappearing. And because everything is so fragmented now, even a huge, someone you would think would be this huge, person, someone like a couple of years ago, like Lizzo. And she certainly drew a lot of people. Yeah. But, you know, for those people, she was probably the biggest star on the planet. But for a lot of people, they maybe never
don't even know
heard of her. Yeah, and so that's just kind of the music industry in general.
And that's not just music. I mean, this is kind of a tangent, but like I was reading an article of this, as someone who is on TikTok and makes things on TikTok, I am more aware of like the young social media stars who are not actors, who are not singers, but they're now getting opportunities because they have such a big following. And like there has been people who are, I don't know what the study said, but it's basically people who are under 20, let's say, are spending less and less time watching movies and TV shows and more time just consuming content online by individual creators.
Sure.
And so the awareness of this by Hollywood executives of now casting these like social media stars in shows because of the draws they pull, because like Charli D'Amelio has 126 million followers on TikTok. Addison Rae has 89 million or whatever. And so, but like, if I said either of those names to my parents, if I said either of those names to a lot of my friends, honestly, like anyone who's not really on TikTok would probably be like, I don't know, who are you talking about?
If you just said those names to me a few seconds ago.
Without having given the context? Yeah. And so that's what I mean. It's like these people who are in their world, super famous, so famous that they are getting opportunities over people who are actually actors or actually whatever, because of the attempt that they have a draw. But I think you're right. It's like in the same way, like musicians, because there is no superstar anymore, right? There is only like the niche that you watch or the niche that you follow or listen to, and that in their own world they are super famous, but like global superstars anymore,
they're few and far between. I mean,
Rihanna?
a handful, Taylor Swift maybe, Beyonce,
but like
Kanye maybe, I don't know.
But and even then, like they have all been around for a long time,
right?
Like there's not even anyone who just is like Olivia Rodrigo,
I guess. She was a question at yesterday's Brewer game when I went.
Oh, there you go.
It was
even that name, I feel like I'd throw out. People like, I was like, it'd be like the driver's license song, and then people might be like, oh yeah, I think I've heard that.
Yep.
But I think you're right. And what I think is an interesting, bigger question is what that means for the financial reality for Summerfest. Because I saw some dialogue on Facebook about, there was basically someone said, I feel like Milwaukee doesn't appreciate Summerfest. And someone immediately wrote back, I feel like Summerfest doesn't appreciate Milwaukee because they get a lot of benefits as an organization of having such prime real estate on the lake in Milwaukee for actually, and like how infrequently in a year's time the grounds are actually used, right? So it's like 11-day festival, and then there's, what else is there? Like Mexican Fiesta.
There's
there's a handful of other festivals that will rent for like $10,000 a day or something like that. They can have their festival there, but like for the most part, like it's definitely not used all year round.
No.
And is it financially viable if no matter COVID or not, if everything continues to decline, do they have to either have more festivals and have it be rented out more? Do they have to start shifting it to be year round? Like, what will eventually need to change? Because if I don't want it to go away, don't get me wrong. Summerfest is great. It's a great like marquee thing for Milwaukee, but it doesn't seem like it's not necessarily going to make enough money to continue to be able to pay that many artists to come every year, and not be in use for that much.
Well, Summerfest, like those other cultural festivals, are renting the grounds as well from the city or the county or whatever it is. They are also, leasing, renting the thing. I know just earlier this year, there was a kerfuffle a couple of years ago about Summerfest paying for security, which security at festivals has just kind of skyrocketed in recent years. And Summerfest kind of still had this old contract where they were paying like next to nothing, and the city was footing the bill for all this overtime for the police. I believe that changed this year, and Summerfest kind of covered the difference.
Oh, really? Okay.
So that's a little something. But yeah, it does feel like Summerfest is kind of, I can see it's not going to happen next year because they've already announced the dates for Summerfest 2022. I do feel that in the near future there may be kind of right sizing of Summerfest, kind of a downsizing. They won't call it a downsizing, but it'll be called a right sizing or whatever the term is. Next year for 2022, they are coming back for 3 weekend blocks: Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Once again, The big change from this year is that they're going to be doing it actually in the heart of summer, kind of when they typically had the festival late June, early July. I think the time of year, I think, was probably what hurt Summerfest most this year. I think just having it in late summer, almost fall, just felt strange. And just having it back where it belongs in June, I think and July is going to go a long way to getting people excited about it again, I think. Like I said, there were so many different factors this year that it's impossible to say, like, what one thing was the
But there's still COVID, right? Like, I mean, the Brewers are crushing it right now, and they're still not even selling out every game, right? Like, they are, like, there is, for the amount of people who were angry about the vaccine/negative test mandate, there's probably as many people who are like, I'm still not comfortable in crowds.
Yep.
I mean, I feel like they're more quiet than the former group. And so, but I think there's still a lot of people who are like, I'm not, as much as the Brewers are killing it, like, I don't want to go. Like, they're like, whether it's people who have young children or whatever reason that for them, they're still just not into the crowd thing.
I think so, yeah. I was at the Brewer game yesterday, and it was 34,000 people, on a beautiful Sunday afternoon. Brewers have clinched a spot in the postseason. They're 3 games away from winning the division. I mean, they're playing the best baseball they've ever had, and it was still, 10,000 people shy or more of a sellout.
Stadium.
And yeah, I think you're right. I think there are a lot of people that maybe are not as loud and obnoxious online that just don't feel comfortable going out in crowds. And occasionally I'll see people say something like that, and I kind of forget that that's a thing. It's like, oh yeah, some people just want to stay away from that, and
which will be interesting because I'm going to the Packers game tonight, and granted it's a Monday night, but like I think it'll be interesting to see. Well, it doesn't help that we're not very good last weekend, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see if that's just a different, excuse the pun, ball game entirely. But if it is sold out, how close people are. If we see any of the same kind of trends up at Lambeau that we've saw with like the Brewers or Summerfest or even Wisconsin State Fair. Like Wisconsin State Fair also had record low turnout.
That's right.
For also similar like weather, COVID, whatever.
I do have the number there. State Fair 2021 drew 841,074 people. That is down for the previous 7 years. They had topped 1 million attendance. So I did see a lot of people saying, like, the loud minority of people who were mad at the vaccination requirement, yelling at Summerfest, laughing at them, saying, we took our business to State Fair. And I'm like, well, State Fair was down as well by, a pretty big chunk. So, yeah, it's just one of those years. And it's impossible to say, like, one thing that you could blame. And like
it's a weird year. It's been a weird 2 years.
Yes.
Like
it really has. It just keeps going and going and going and going. So, like I said, Summerfest 2022 will be in summer, the heart of summer next year. And it'll be 3 weekends again, which seems to be the way they're going to go in the future. This 3-weekend block instead of the kind of big chunk of 11 days or whatever it was in the past, which I'm kind of ambivalent about. It's
the only feedback or like negative feedback on that is just it sucks for service industry people.
Yeah.
Is that like, for people who work in bars and restaurants, like their prime money making days are the weekends. And so if all the concerts on the weekends, it kind of makes them put a choice between like taking a day off, even if they can, or getting to enjoy Summerfest. So like, which is legit. It's a very service industry heavy town.
Yeah. It makes it feel to me like a little less of a Milwaukee festival because I'm going to miss that feeling of like, oh, it's Tuesday, it's 2:00, I have nothing to do. I'm just going to go to Summerfest and like just walk around. And, people just did that. And it felt like a very local, homegrown festival that way. I think just, having it on weekends, it makes it more of a destination. Like, I am going to see this thing and not just kind of wander around. So we will see. So highlights, quick highlights from Summerfest, like show, like who is the best?
Who is the best? Well, it's hard to say the best because I didn't see everything.
Right.
But like I said, very much enjoyed Dave Matthews. Still puts on a great show.
Nice.
Like great live show. I know a lot of people like roll their eyes as far as Dave Matthews.
Yeah.
I think if like I was definitely in high school in the prime of like everyone just loved Dave, but like still puts on a epic. Like they're just such incredible musicians.
Yeah.
And so that was really fun. And then I loved Megan Thee Stallion.
Oh yeah.
Where I could probably recite almost every single Dave song and like still in the back of my brain in the same way that I can still recite the entire movie of like The Little Mermaid, like that like young sponge brain of like all those lyrics are still there even though I haven't listened to the songs in 10 years. I know a lot of Megan Thee Stallion songs, but I could not rap along. Like this, I was with a bunch of girls who knew all the lyrics and I was just dancing. But she put on a hell of a show. Dancing, just fun. Just like a very, very fun. I would imagine it's similar to how, the music is different, but like how Lizzo is. Like the comment I make, because at one point she was just pointing people out and having them come on stage to dance. Yeah. Which was incredible to watch her be like, you in the pinstripes, like you in the gray shirt, and men, women, whatever. And then she like dropped that shit. And just 20 people just twerking in front of an entire amphitheater. Like not professional dancers, Beautiful. And they were like grinding on her and she just stood there and then she took a bunch of pictures of them. So like see how like down to earth and cool she still seemed despite her like skyrocket to like how famous and a big deal she is now. But that was also a really fun show. And she was hunting ghosts at the Pfister. Oh yeah, that was really funny. Big thing. Yeah, big excitement. That was really funny. And I'll say it, Shaq was super fun. Oh yeah, I saw someone reviewing for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel had a dim view of the Shaq show, and Shaq saw the tweet and lashed out, and there was a little Twitter war between Shaq and the Journal-Sentinel. So that's just one of the joys that Summerfest can bring. I'll just give a quick shout out to the kind of like off-brand Summerfest stuff, which I did with my kid. We went one day and we did all the stuff that no one ever does at Summerfest, like go to the weird arcade tent and play like pinball and arcade games and ride the Ferris wheel and like watch the Admirals, the Milwaukee Admirals put on a, street hockey demo like on the sports stage and all that stuff. All the stuff that's kind of in the back there, walk around by the vendors and stuff like that. I have a real soft spot for that kind of stuff just in general. So I always appreciate that. And I was glad it was there this year. And, you can pay some money and roll around in a big hamster ball and do all this, stupid stuff in the back. I love that. My 7-year-old loves that. So I have the taste of a 7-year-old is basically what I'm saying. I love that carnival kind of atmosphere stuff. So I always appreciate that. That's still kind of a little bit part of Summerfest every year. Love it. So looking forward to 2022 and whatever it may bring. Before we go, we are legally talking about legally mandated. We are legally mandated to end each and every show where we have a little segment where we discuss what our favorite senior senator from Wisconsin has been up to lately. It is a segment that we like to call Mandatory Johnson. So, what is Mr. Ron Johnson? He is the senior senator in question. What has he been up to lately? Well, he still hasn't announced. Yeah, kind of the same old. He hasn't announced whether he's going to be running again. A few weeks ago, it's kind of old news, but it kind of caught my interest anyway. He was caught on tape. He was kind of secretly filmed on tape, kind of admitting that there wasn't a huge conspiracy with the whole voting fraud thing, which still is a thing that people believe, apparently. There was, I believe it was a woman, she was posing as kind of a sympathetic Republican supporter. She was secretly filming him on her phone and, she was saying like, oh yeah, voter fraud, it's real. And he was like, no, Trump lost Wisconsin because he just didn't get enough votes. If people would have voted for him like they voted for other Republicans in the state, he would have won, but they didn't, so he lost. And this was supposedly a big bombshell. Oh my God, here he is on tape admitting that there is no voter fraud. I kind of hate these stories when they happen every now and then, when someone secretly films someone saying something, a gotcha thing.
or someone poses as someone else and calls up Scott Walker or something stupid like that. I don't know. There's something like that years ago. I always hate these things because
someone pretended to be a Koch brother, right?
Yeah, right. They gave him a call, and he was like Larry Koch or whatever the hell his name is, and it's always so easily refuted by the person who's caught on tape, because all they have to say is like, well, I was secretly recorded. This is BS, and that's the end of it. There's no smoking gun here. It's nothing. It's just kind of an annoying story. And who isn't more annoying than Ron Johnson these days? I don't know.
Well, yeah, and it's just that kind of felt like a non-story of like, was the story that he admitted it?
I guess.
Was the story that he admitted it to someone he thought was a Republican?
Right.
Like, I don't know what the big...
I don't either. I think he said, the same thing. What is the big deal? I've gone on record saying that there is no voter fraud, yet he's still supporting all these myriad investigations into, I don't even know who's investigating. I think everyone in town.
There's still one happening because it's the newest thing is that it's costing about $680,000 of taxpayer money to continue this Voss approved election. That actually happened last week. So basically they have this investigation happening, and they sent some like sketchy email to basically a bunch of different clerks. Yeah. And the email itself just did not look professional or legit at all. So like first it just went to a bunch of people's spam. Right. And then a lot of people just deleted it and I think there was one county clerk or city clerk, I forgot where they were from. There was like, we all know that there's like Russians and a bunch of like bad parties who are actively trying to hack our elections. Yeah. Like, why did you ever think we would open this email? Like, right. And so that's how that's going. That's how that super professional, organized
this is what's his name? Gableman, right? Is the guy?
Just such a good use of money.
Yep. Good chunk. So yeah. Looking forward to all the explosive details that
I would just like him to say if he's announcing or not.
Yeah, I know.
Because I feel like it's on both sides. Like, we've talked about this before. It's like anyone who wants to... He's just eating away time and money from anyone who would run in his seat. Right. On the Republican side. And it's also causing everyone on the Democratic side to like not have to have a platform besides I'm not Ron Johnson. Yeah, that's true. Right? And then that's an overgeneralization. But basically, like... Whether it's Mandela or Sarah Gadlowski or Tom Nelson, like Stephen Alcar kind of has a different message. He does have a different message. It's very, I think it's like bringing dignity back to politics or something like that. And then the Lazary, they've all been kind of quiet, but every time I feel like I hear from almost any of them, it's about how bad Ron Johnson is, which is not a platform. Right. But it is until he announces one way or the other. And so, next year is going to be fun because Clayfish is announced. That's right. Yes. With that dog whistle awful thing that she created. Which one? I don't know. Yeah. It's hard to say. She just started it, and her announcement video was like in the streets of Kenosha. Where Evers just abandoned Kenosha. That's right. But yeah, I don't think anyone else has announced besides her as far as running on the Republican ticket. I don't think so. Not for like governor. A big name like Rebecca Clayfish. Yeah, so big name. So that's what Ron Johnson has been up to lately, and this was Mandatory Johnson. So that wraps things up for this episode. Kristin, I know you have a busy week. You are going, as you said, to the Packer game tonight, but I know you have some stuff coming up this week in town, some events. Yes. Our good friend Dan Schaefer, who is the founder and reporter for the Recombobulation Area. Yes, I said that right. Yep. The Recombobulation Area's birthday. It's 2 years, and so he is having an event to celebrate that at Boone and Crockett, and has asked me to host/do a live Q&A with him at Boone and Crockett. I think we're starting at 6. And so you can ask questions, hang out, but then we're also going to replay Game 6 of the Bucks. That's awesome. Which, if you follow Dan Schaefer on Twitter, you know that basically what he talks about is complaining about how much the Republicans screw over Milwaukee and the Bucks. And so it's really on brand. It's really on brand. His two things he will be discussing. Yes. And so that is Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll be helping out at Oktoberfest at the Veterans Museum Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which will be fairly low-key, I think. Hopefully the weather is good. And then it's October, which is insane. What about you?
I'm with you, too. This week, Milwaukee Record, we are excited to begin once again to restart our monthly movie screenings at the Avalon Theater. This Wednesday, we are showing a film we had booked 18 months ago and had to cancel, The Fifth Element, the great sci-fi film Fifth Element. That screening is sold out. You can only come if you had previously purchased tickets a year and a half ago.
Wow.
But after that, once a month, we're going to be having films again, and that's a lot of fun. We have our halftime show that we're doing for Packers games. We're having one tonight at the Cooperage, inside the Cooperage. And then from there on, next Sunday or next week Sunday, we're back at the Cactus Club, and that's usually where we do the halftime shows, where we watch the game together, and then we have a local artist perform during halftime.
Oh, that's fun.
Do 10, 15-minute set, and that's it, and then we all just watch the game. So, yep.
Maybe I'll be there Sunday.
Tonight, we'll be at the Cooperage, and then from there on, we're at the Cactus Club every week.
And then next, what is it, October 3rd that you were the host of?
And October 3rd, yes, I am the MC of the Brady Street Pet Parade.
I cannot wait for that.
I cannot wait for it. I feel I need to buy a suit for some reason. I don't know. I feel like
you should get a retro suit. You should get a pastel bow tie, ruffled shirt, really do it up.
I was thinking either something like that or like a top hat and tails for some reason. I don't know, a nice, just looking really dignified as all these doggies and kitties and whatever else are paraded down Brady Street. I cannot wait for that.
I can't wait.
It'll be great. It'll be a hoot. So hopefully we'll see you before then. And until then, we'll talk to you later.